Hey guys, this is Mel, and I'm back to talk about the 100, episode 607, titled Nevermind, which premiered Tuesday, June 18, 2019 on the CW. I'm recording roughly an hour and 15 minutes after the episode is aired. I would have recorded sooner, but I did have a show afterwards that was on. So I'm here now to talk, so huge spoiler alert if you haven't seen the episode already. Please go do so first. And then come back to see what I have to say about the episode. My other video reminders are up on screen. Take a moment to remind yourselves of those. Huge quick shout out to Mr. Legendary AO once again for your in-depth comment that I was very excited to read, and I will respond shortly after I post this video. So I'm going to try to do this in 15 minutes. So let's start the clock and let's begin with what happened in this episode. So first off, guys, I have to say this is probably one of my favorite episodes. I never felt so hyped for an episode in such a long time. I mean, this season has been pretty great, and it definitely has me feeling all sorts of things on the spectrum of emotions, but to have myself hyped the moment I get the promo, I can't remember if that's happened for the one. I know it's happened a few times in other shows for me, but for this one, it's something I've been waiting. It feels like it's something I've been waiting for so long, but it's definitely something I've been waiting since since Clark's body was taken over. So for about a month. So I guess this is something I've only been waiting for a month for, but it was just I love it. Also, a reason why it's my favorite, I'll initially say before I go into the little details about it, it's because of all the different callbacks we got in this episode, all the different tie-ins to the past 6 years of the shows, all the different flashbacks, or the flashes of flashbacks, because you don't really get the full flashbacks playing out, but all the familiar faces we got to see, all those little things that really, and it's pretty much, this episode is a true exploration of what makes Clark. And it was just very interesting to see what she deems as being important, what she has deep-seated inside of her, what she still holds with her, what she's let go and stuff like that. So it was very interesting to see that much in depth, and I feel so much better after this episode, because after she's been away for technically 2 episodes, Clark, I'm glad this episode was pretty much solely focused on her and where she's coming from. So already my favorite. So there's that. So let's get into the usual. So timeline wise, this does continue from where 606 leaves off, with Clark waking up in her cell in the skybox. It literally is the part where it was previously on, and then where it ended off there, it just immediately picks right up. So there's that. So the episode reminder I am going to say is the fact that I'd say 95% of the episode takes place in Clark's mind space, or into the mental headspace, because there is a point of it where we go into Josephine's mind space, but it's still Clark exploring it. So I think maybe the last few minutes of the episode is when we're actually back in reality again. So there's that. Now the episode objective, though, is Clark trying to keep this important memory of the whole EMP away from Josephine. And if you remember, the EMP is from the storyline of the Flame. Specifically, I think it's episode 311 when they use the EMP bomb on Raven to destroy her flame chip without killing her. So the whole part is Clark trying to keep that memory away from Josephine, because that could be used or fabricated in a way to get rid of Clark once and for all. So there's that. So episode storyline. So again, this is pretty much one storyline is solely focused on Clark's mind space. We do see her trying to keep that memory away from Josephine, and then it comes to the point where Clark's trying to gain control of her own body before Josephine wakes up and permanently finds a way to erase Clark. So we do see that. Last moments of the episode do take place in reality, I guess you can say, where we get Clark and Monty getting their Morse Code message out through Clark's body without Josephine realizing it, to Bellamys, saying that Clark's still alive. Which was seriously, through that whole moment when Bellamys notices that Clark's hand is just twitching, and it doesn't seem like Josephine's doing it as a fidget tap. The moment that was happening, he was writing it down in his reaction. My mouth was slack-jawed. It was open in a mid-gasp moment, and it was just I was waiting, what does it say, what does it say, what does it say, type of thing. So I'm glad we got to see it at the very end. It's just yeah, so that was a great way to end the episode. So there's that. But character-wise, though, truly we don't see many characters per se. But in this one, we do find out that Gabriel Santiago, he has taken his own vessel or his own host, or at least that's what the previous Josephine 7, I believe. So I think it was, yeah, it had to be Josephine's previous body before Clark. She said that Gabriel's host would have been 93 at that point. So even though he's against the whole thing with the primes, it seems like he still did the process himself. I mean, which is what we assume, because the children of Gabriel being led by an old man kind of makes you assume that it's Gabriel who's leading them, right? The original one. So there's that. So Kaylee we do see again in, I believe we saw her as her original body in Josephine's Earth memory. I believe that was her. I don't know if it was another student or not with her, but I believe it was her. But we also see Kaylee in the previous body that we saw her in as the hijacker body. But we do find out from one of Josephine's memories that Kaylee believed that they were more than just their blood. So kind of like trying to find value in everybody and not just those who had the radiation, the modified blood, which is what the primes needed. So there's that. So for Josephine, we find out that she has 230 years worth of memories. And we do see that while Clark draws out her memories, we see Josephine keeping them in chronological diaries and in this massive library. So there's that. It's very interesting because the moment I saw that room, it really reminded me of the death books in Supernatural that we saw in, I think it was 1305. Yeah, in 1305. So that's what came to mind anyways. But anyways, we do find out with Josephine that her darkest memory seems to have taken place on Earth before she got sent to Planet Alpha. And that seems to be because her boyfriend at the time killed himself in front of her when they were at a diner studying because of her lack of emotion towards him after everything he tries to do for her, tries to be the good boyfriend, everything, and she just not giving anything back, like even the simplest of stuffs. And he views her lack of a response as more of like her stringing him along instead of just ending things. So he kills himself instead. And this is around the time where Diosa was on the front page of the newspapers claiming that she was just captured. So this was long before she was on Allegis 3 or Allegis 4. And then we do see Becca on the cover of magazines for her inventions and stuff like that. So it was a throwback to see like an actual diner location happening. So there's that. And then we also meet a new character, Isaac. He was very short-lived because this ended up being someone that Kaylee grew close to. And he was the one that was trying to save all the hosts, or the upcoming hosts for the primes by taking them to Gabriel. And Josephine, in her previous body, had slit Isaac's throat to stop him, which kind of prompted Kaylee to kill Josephine later on by dragging her and then pushing her out the window to kind of frame her death. And then that is the death that Josephine and Clark's body came back to kill Kaylee for. Yeah, so there's that. Also, we do get a new term in this episode, the nulls, as Josephine calls it. Apparently, they're the opposite to the primes in respect to the fact that they dilute the chances, or they diminish the chances of a prime host being born. So, like, it's pretty much the way I'm going to see it is kind of in dominant recessive genetic type thing. So say like being a night blood is a recessive gene. And in this scenario, from the way I'm understanding is that the null would be the dominant gene. So the fact that if you have a null and a prime, so a red blood with a black blood, then the red blood is always going to be dominant over the black blood. The only time and if that happens so many times, then that you're going to pretty much breed out the recessive trait to the point that unless it's a black blood with a black blood, that's the only way you're going to get another black blood type of thing, or a night blood. So that's the way I'm thinking for the nulls. Josephine definitely viewed the nulls as a way to extinguish the possibility of having hosts being born for them. So that's something there. And apparently the nulls they're like the lowest on the chain of command, I guess, because they were getting like all like the scrub jobs type of thing from my understanding. So there's that. Moving on to tidbits though, very quickly. Now we did see a bunch of flashbacks, brief memories. We do see a lot of sketches of Clark's that kind of do tie into specific moments, like Guard Bellamy, Octavia's "We're back, bitches," Clark and Maddie by the campfire, Lexa as the commander, Lexa being in bed with Clark. Those are the ones that specifically we got Octavia, I believe, as a warrior, I think. We do have Raven with her being electrocuted by the EMP, so that was a very dark moment to sketch out. We do see Maddie with the shock collar on her at that point as well. So there's and then we also have the original photo that was on the skybox floor as well. So that was pretty cool to see all these different drawings all together in one spot that we've seen Clark do over the course of the show. So that was pretty cool. But specifically for flashbacks pertaining to previous episodes, we get 311 with Raven getting her flame chip EMP'd out of her. We get 501 with Clark and Maddie by the campfire. We get 208 with Clark stabbing Finn to save him from his grounder sentencing. We do see Commander Alexa in a huge flash, like a huge image flash. I don't know where in particular that episode was taken from, but she was wearing the grounder gear because she had like the gear on her head. So I don't know if that was 207 or if it was a later date or something. I'm not sure, but there's that. And then we also see in 103 in the flashback of her father Jake being floated, like just before he got released from the cell block doors. So there's that. So also we do find out from Bellamy that in Earth Skills, Pike taught his students Morse code. We find out that while Bellamy remembers it, Miller slept through it. So I'm very happy that they included that line, because when Bellamy was doing that moment, I thought in my head after the whole euphoric moment of him noticing it was the fact like, well, when did he learn Morse code? And then when he brought it up, initially I thought he was referring to the time where Pike was in control during season 3. But then when he said, like, when he referred back to the class on the Ark, because for a moment I forgot that Pike was the teacher there. So I'm glad that they inputted that little bit of tidbit, because it helps correlate the fact that they know this because of this. So I'm glad for that. Also, another tidbit is the fact that I know that I'm not the one that found this out. It was during like when the scene where Clark meets Josephine for the first time, when that scene was released before the episode aired, a lot of people in the comments were commenting on the fact that Josephine's hairstyle of her having her hair half up, half down was very reminiscent of Clark's earlier episodes as she wore her hair that way. So I'm calling it Teen Clark look. So that's pretty interesting to have it a subtle callback that way, since she's technically being Clark now. So yeah, so that was pretty cool there. And then another tidbit is the fact that we find out, which is a very disturbing thing, was that before the mind wipe was perfected, Josephine experienced many merges with different mind spaces, including a 6-month-old baby. So I'm wondering if that is a reason why she's a little like psychotic and a little sociopathy-esque, Clark dubbed her. But I mean, I can only imagine if her mind is getting merged with all these different minds and then dying all of a sudden. I didn't think that like she would either be conscious, like her memory drive would be conscious during that part, or if like she just wouldn't remember it after it happened. But like, yeah, that's like very mind trippy there. So there's that we found out. So about ship status, I will say that for Bellamy and Clark, pretty much is the fact that he gets her message and with the Morse code. Also the fact that when Josephine mentions Bellamy making a deal for their peace, it seems like that was the moment Clark started considering maybe she shouldn't keep fighting. Maybe like this is the end for it. It seems like that Bellamy was that switch there. So there's that. Another thing was with Bellamy and Miller at the very end of the episode. We do see them teaming up together like old times. Miller being Bellamy's backup. Definitely a callback to their dropship days. So there's that. We do see the return of dynamics of Jake and Clark, last seen in 103 and 108. We do see the return of Clark and Monty, which I really miss. Him trying to motivate her to continue fighting, and that what he meant by being better is not what she was doing, and trying to like get her to like keep fighting. Also, we do see Clark actually going up against Josephine to try to gain control of her body again. So we do see that there. We also see Clark kind of going up against Allie 2.0, which is the artificial intelligence from season 3. To the point that like Allie ended up giving advice to Clark and kind of explaining like this is the situation you're kind of in. There's a timer, explaining how like Clark is alive because of Allie's tech that's still inside Clark for some reason. I don't know how that's possible, but she kind of gives her a little 101 of like, this is what's happening, this is what you need to do, and kind of tells her keep the EMP memory, like keep it close to you and keep that safe, because that's what's going to be saving you type of thing. So it's very interesting to do that part. I was very surprised to see Allie, but like I had hoped, but I thought we'd get Becca. So I'll bring that up later on though. And then we also see Clark against Octavia, or more specifically Blood Reina, or Clark's Mindscape version of Blood Reina. And we definitely see some going back about how like loyalty and like you left us behind, and like she brought out the fact like I thought you cared for Bellamy, and Clark argues like I care for you both, and then Octavia arguing like why'd you leave us behind then type of thing. So it was very specific with that one, putting into question Clark's feelings for the Blake siblings and like where they fall with each other. So that was very interesting there. It's just very interesting to see the full Blood Reina setup going against Clark. I kind of would have wished that like Blood Reina would have teamed up with Clark to take out Josephine and have that little fight moment there, but I guess not. So there's that. Although now I'm wondering, since we saw the pit in Clark's mind space, if we're going to see that revisited, because I could have sworn in one of the promos of like the season's promo, I saw Octavia against Blood Reina. Kind of like what Clark against Clark type of thing. Anyways, I'm speculating. I have no idea. But anyways, let's move on. Most shocking moment of the episode. First, the fact that Bellamy got Clark's Morse Code message at the very end. I was surprised. I mean, I could only hope that... I had hoped that Clark would be the one that would wake up, or maybe she would somehow force Josephine into a coma or something to prevent her from waking up and sharing her sharing her discovery or something to her father. But I'm very happy that at least Bellamy got the message that like Clark's alive. So like in the span of 2 days, he found out that she's dead, only to find out she's alive. So I was like, I'm okay with that. Another shocking thing was Josephine's Earth memory. I thought like maybe like, I don't know, I got a very bad vibe off the guy. I thought maybe it was just a guy that she couldn't shake, or is like he was going to get aggressive on her later on or something. But to find out that like they were already together, but she was the one that was kind of ditching him type of thing. And I was not expecting it at all. So that was a surprise there. But then also to see Josephine's actual like reaction to Clark seeing that memory, that was like very intense, and that kind of like tipped her over the edge type of thing. So there's that. And I'm wondering if that was the moment that Russell was referring to when he was kind of reprimanding Josephine in the previous episode about how like about how her lack of compassion has changed. Her lack of compassion is not what she originally was dealing with before. I don't know, like if you know what I mean. Like previously in the previous episode, he made a mention to a him that she's been different ever since. I assumed it was Gabriel, but I'm wondering if this guy was the him that Russell was referring to. But so there's that. But let's move on to top 3 favorite moments. I was going to do a parallels thing, but because this was pretty much a lot more of callbacks, we'll put the parallels on hold for now. But My huge favorite was the fact that we got these familiar faces. First off, in the first 9 minutes of the episode, we got both Jake Griffin, aka her father, as well as Allie 2.0, the artificial intelligence, which was just amazing. In like less than 9 minutes already, I get 2 faces. So with the first one with Jake, we do get him helping Clark to realize that she's still alive and that she should figure out what's going on instead of just sitting back and coming to terms with the fact that she's dead, because she wasn't. So there's that. And with Allie, with her, we get her telling Clark why she's alive and how she's alive, and the fact that the flame mesh tech is inside Clark is what is able to keep her alive, because it was able to still have a fragment of Clark or something in there. I have no idea how that works, because I'm pretty sure she would also need to have the flame inside of her for that to happen, unless like parts of it got cut off and was always inside of Clark. I have no idea how the tech works there, but I do appreciate that Allie did have that moment to kind of explain it. At least Clark understands it and stuff, and kind of explain the situation of how like what you did before to kind of defeat me is kind of what you need now just to help you out type of thing. And I do like the callbacks of how like they brought up the bad blood between them and like what happened in season 3, and kind of like making amends of like, well, I was trying to do this because I was trying to spare this pain, and it's like also saying like I don't understand humans and stuff like that. It was very interesting. I mean, I was very surprised that we got Allie. I kind of hoped that, I thought if anything we would get Allie through the flame that Maddie has. I wasn't not expecting it to happen with Clark, but if anything, I had hoped that we would have gotten Becca, which is still the same face, but Becca, because she was the one that created the memory drive, so I had hoped that through the flame, Maddie would find a way to learn more about the memory drives with Commander Becca in the flame. But to have Clark learn it in a way through Allie was very interesting, and it was a complete surprise there as well. So I do appreciate that moment as well. Another familiar face we got was Maya from Mount Weather. Now, she was able to help Clark realize that she was in control of her mind space. So we got to see her kind of get the jump on Josephine with the whole shock collar thing. So another forced death in that sense before she regenerated herself. But it was very interesting to have Maya come in and bring up all the death from Mount Weather, to bring up what later turned out to be Jasper's death, because it was indirectly connected to Maya's death. So then she was blaming Clark for Jasper's death as well, even though Clark had came to the realization that it was Jasper's decision. But Maya claimed that it wasn't, because the moment that Clark killed Maya, it ended up killing Jasper too, type of thing. So it's very interesting to have that stuff brought back up again as well. And then another last final familiar phase was Monty, and he looks what amazes me is that how young he looks. Like, he literally looks like, well, they both did in the moment too. No, I think this is what was throwing me off, is because you get adult Clark talking to an ARC Monty, like Monty before they hit the ground the first time. So it was just like, he looked so young. It was just like, he's still wearing the same gear that during the first dropship days. It was just like, wow. It's just like, I miss Monty so much. But his appearance definitely was what allowed for Clark to realize that she still needs to keep fighting, that he pretty much helped her to realize that her giving up was not what was best for their people. And it was just like, it was all the more better because Monty's speeches were always fantastic. I love that he was able to get through to Clark, and the fact that he was able to hack into that while Clark was looking through the books and going through the 2 memories of Josephine's previous host. While she was doing that, Monty was trying to hack through the door to gain entry into the control room for Clark, which ended up being the dark memory. But I just love that they brought in Monty using his hacking, or using his tech skills once again. It's just, I miss him so much, and it's just like, that's where Jordan gets it from. So it's just like, I love that we got Monty. I was not expecting it. I really thought it would be Jake again at the very end, like Clark did. Or I thought, if anything, it would be Bellamys. But I'm so glad it was Monty, for sure. Another favorite I did have was all the different versions of Clark that we got. I love this. The fact that we were able to see Skybox Clark, or Prisoner Clark, I guess you could say. The fact that we got Grounder Clark, both when she was inside Mount Weather, and we got to see her when she was back in her Skybox setting as well. We got to see adult Clark, so that's with the short hair with the pink strips in it. But I love how with each setting, her appearance changes based on like what she was. So if she was in her skybox, then she would be dressed in what we first saw her in the pilot episode. If she was in anything that was Sanctum related, then we got to see her as adult Clark. Or if like when it had to deal with on the ship or in her box again, we got to see Grounder Clark, so the longer hair braids. It's just like, it's amazing to me how they were able to get her back into those outfits essentially and those looks, and look as if a day hadn't passed since the original time that she wore them. It's just like, it amazes me. It's like, and it's just like, I'm stunned. I'm like amazed that they were able to transition it so easily, especially when she was switching scenes during fight scenes or during running scenes, and they were able to have it cut so seamlessly to look like they were able to have it go from one switch to another. So it's just like, it was very cool how it was done. It was just like, well done. The detailing behind all the outfit callbacks, and the fact that the skybox one, she only wore it in the one episode in the very beginning of the whole show. And the fact that they were able to recreate that and really like get it down to the very tip. I probably should have checked if she had her father's watch on. I was kind of too caught up in the moment to double check those things. But all the detailing is just like, I'm amazed. So there's that. Another favorite I did have was the fight scene between Clark and Josephine. Again, like I said at the very beginning of the video, that is something I've been waiting for so much since the idea of this possession took place. I've been waiting for something like this. And the fact that Clark won like aggressively in the first fight between them, it first started in the skybox and then it went into the hallway, and then Clark just ended up bashing Josephine's head in with the red door, which is, I thought was pretty. Why is it always a red door? Because that's another thing that would happen on the originals with the whole significance of a red door in 205. But anyway, and it came back later on. But anyways, I just love that Clark didn't like hold anything back. She was literally fighting to survive. And I love that you could see in that moment that it caught Josephine off guard. And like in comparison, you can't compare, because like Clark had to say, she had to fight to survive for a long time. She had to learn how to fight dirty. She had to learn how to get into those moments. And I don't believe Josephine had to do with that. She's a prime. She was treated like royalty. So it's like she would have guards to do the dirty work for her. So I really like that Clark gave it her all and she came out on top for it. Plus, I really just wanted her to kick Josephine's butt. Like the well-deserved body snatcher to just get what she deserves. But again, it's very interesting to see the two go at it like that, and just like, it's something like I've stated before that I've been waiting to see replicated from like what Supernatural had done when their main characters got possessed by angels and demons and stuff like that. So it was great to see Clark's take on it. So there's that. Plus, also during the fight scenes, you get the switch in outfits as well and scenery, so this was pretty cool. And a final favorite I did have was the fact that Bellamys received Clark's message. The fact that he was able to notice it, and then the way that he was subtly able to take the message, and then that hope you see in that, like, that's another side comment there. I mean, did you notice that Bellamy's reactions every time he sees Clark, now that he knows that it's Josephine that's in control? I mean, in 606, I think the first time he saw her again after that whole bombshell went off, I think he like looked heartbroken, and like obviously so he's still dealing with the fact that Clark is dead and this imposter is wearing her face type of thing. And then in this episode, I could have sworn that he flinched when he saw her staring at him and knowing that it wasn't Clark, and he just flinched away. But then the moment he saw that flinching thing, he's like looking at her kind of oddly. He's like, it's like, what is this? And then the moment he saw the message, you could see that hope and that spark back on his eyes when he realized that Clark is alive, and he's more determined than ever to get her back. So I was so excited for that. So I'll leave it at that. Now, honestly, with how hyped I am about this episode, the only issue I had, the peeve, so let's move on to that, was that Clark gave up the EMP memory the way she did. I thought that with the locked box in the woods and everything, I thought something else would be in the box. I thought it was a trap. I didn't think she'd actually give over the real EMP memory to Josephine. I thought she was going to give it an alternate, or she was going to give a fake one or an altered one that kind of looked like it but didn't, so, type of thing. So like she wouldn't know the difference. So I was a little peeved that Clark ended up giving it to her. But I'm glad, and then like kind of like stopped fighting after that. So that was the only peeve I had. I was expecting a trap to happen of some sort. I didn't get it, so that's kind of where the disappointment comes from. But otherwise, I love the episode. The episode was fantastic. Kudos to everybody on it. It was just the representation of like bringing everything from the past and kind of bringing it to the present to kind of showcase the progress was just like amazing. So I'll leave it at that. But random questions very quickly. We know that the electromagnetic pulse, the EMP that they want to put in the chip to fry it without killing the host. I know that they did it on Raven, but that was when there was only one chip that was inside of her, so they didn't have to worry about anything. So I'm wondering if they end up doing it on Clark's body, will that fry both Josephine's memory drive as well as whatever mesh tech that's keeping Clark alive? Or do they plan of extracting Josephine out of the body and then doing the EMP to destroy Clark's tech inside of her body and then inserting Josephine back in to kind of give her the whole one body, one mind type of thing? And I'm still confused about how Clark's mind is still connected to tech when the flame is in Maddie. Unless like a piece of the flame broke off in Clark or something like that. Like how, I don't get that still. But there's that. Another question. The memory of Bellamy's deal that Clark saw in her mind space, it seemed different to me, so I'm wondering if that was altered purposefully by Josephine to give Clark the impression that Bellamy was unaffected by her death and like he's doing what's best for his people. To give the wrong impression of Clark, because I could have sworn it came out a lot different in 606. Or I'm wondering if that's just me remembering it or not, but please let me know. I might have to go back and double check and compare the two later on. But yeah, there's that. Another question. Any chance that Monty will stay with Clark in her mind space? I mean, we do see her at the very end, or we do see initially Monty is the one that's doing the Morse code, but then we do see it flipped that it's actually Clark doing it. I don't know if it's like kind of like showing you that it's actually Clark and not Monty that's doing it, or if it's showing like they switched to give a break to each other, or if like Monty's just not there anymore. I kind of hope he is, because like I want to see more of Monty, and this is the way that we can still get it, even though he's technically dead. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed. So there's that. And last question. When Russell entered Clark's mind space, was that actually Russell, or was he just a manifestation from Josephine that she brought over to Clark's mind space, kind of like how Clark brought Monty over to Josephine's mind space? So I'm wondering about that as well. I think it's just a mind manifestation, but originally I at first thought it was the actual Russell, and he just like hooked up his memory drive together. But then like I was thinking like, well, how would he know if she's still technically asleep right now? So I'm moving more towards mind manifestation like Monty was, but I still would like to know if that's true or not. So there's that. So let's move on to predictions very quickly. Based off the promo for 608, it looks like Clark's body is going to undergo some surgery. Whether or not they're going to save Clark in time is unknown. It does also look like someone gets injured in the leg, possibly a gunshot wound. No clue. I was kind of reeling over the Morse code moment than to really focus on the promo when it first showed. So that's kind of my fault. But the synopsis for the episode reads that Octavia and Dioza make their way to the mysterious anomaly in search of the old man. Meanwhile, Murphy has an offer for Emory. So I can't wait for Octavia and Dioza to go to the anomaly and meet the old man. I hope they find out a lot more information about the whole situation that's going on, and maybe painting a little more of a picture of like the two sides that we have, the Primes versus the Children of Gabriel, because they definitely don't know what's happening with Clark at the moment. So I can't wait to get more answers that way. In regards to Murphy having an offer for Emory, I think that's when he's going to tell her that he has a memory drive available for her to take. Whether or not she does so will be the question. I think she will, after they get over the logistics of needing another vessel. But it will be interesting to see. otherwise, that is pretty much it, guys. I definitely went twice as long as I planned, but what can you expect from an episode I absolutely loved? I might actually go watch it again once it's on Netflix. But otherwise, that's about it. What do you guys think of this episode? What do you guys like about it? What do you think will happen next? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your own thoughts, theories, and predictions about all that good stuff. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos if you haven't done so already. Also, another thought. Isn't episode 7 usually ones that are very Clark heavy? Because 107 was during the whole storm and she had to operate on Finn. 207 is when she's officially met Lexa. 307 is when it was a Clexa hookup moment thing. And then 407, drawing a blank what 407 was, but it'll be on screen once I find out. And then 507. I think that was the one that was going through the desert. Possibly. Again, on screen as well. But Clark was in all of them, but I'm wondering if that's a thing. But yeah, so otherwise, wow, I'm tired. It's almost midnight for me. But anyways, if you want, follow me on Tumblr. Check that out. I reblog promos, web clips, quotes, GIFs, synopses, news, all that good stuff. All found in one place. Go check that out. I am a little behind, but I'm trying to keep up as best as I can. And then just do a massive reload or an upload later. But there's that. Also, WordPress account link for that is down below. Anything I post online is connected to WordPress. More organized, more detailed, but again, a work in progress as well. You will see Tumblr tag list on WordPress a lot better because Tumblr kind of destroyed mine on its own website. So, and you guys, if you're from Tumblr, you know how extensive I like to tag my stuff. So, there's that. But otherwise, that is pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope you come back next week to see what I have to say about my next, about the next episode. And then afterwards, I believe it's a week hiatus. So please be on the lookout for those. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening to my rants and me just blanking. It's been a long day. But I hope you come back again to see what I have to say next time. But until then, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week wherever you are. Bye for now.